Hello everyone, in this video we're going to cover our final loop, which is our for loop. It's probably one of the most popular loops that you'll use while you're programming. So with a for loop, it takes in how many times you want to loop through a certain set of conditions, and there's an incrementer built into the condition statement. So a for loop is really useful if you know how many times you're going to be wanting to perform an operation, while a while loop or a do while loop is more used if you're not quite sure on how many times you'll have to iterate or perform a list of operations. So let's jump into it with a quick example. So I'll create my file, I'll call it forloop.js. We're going to print out hello, similar to what we've done in our previous two programs using our loops. So we'll start off with the keyword for, and again you're probably getting used to this. We're using our keyword for our for loop. We're using two round brackets, and in our previous videos you've seen that we've put in a condition inside our loop. So for our while and our do while loops we had some condition that had to be met. So in a similar way we're doing the same thing with our for loops. Now we need to start off with an incrementer. So previously you've seen me defining my incrementer outside the for loop or outside the while loop. We could actually define it inside our for loop. So we could say let, and we usually call our incrementer I. I is just the first letter in the word incrementer, so it kind of makes sense, and we want to set it to 0 because we want to start at 0. Now after we've put down 0, we want to put in a semicolon. So we put down a semicolon, and now we want to define how many times we want to iterate or how many times we want to go through and perform these list of instructions. So in our case, how many times do we want to go and print out hello world? So we want to define while I is less than some number. So the number that we'll use in this case is 5. While I is less than 5, we want to print out hello. And the problem that you've seen in our last two loops was we ran into an infinite loop, or we got a bunch of hellos displayed out to the screen when we didn't want them. So we want to increment with our for loop as well. So we put down another semicolon and we put down an I plus plus. So this is pretty neat and compact. Put down two curly brackets. We're going to bring that down to the next line, and inside these curly brackets, similar to our other for loops, we're going to do our console log hello. If we go and run our program now to see our output, we can see that we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hellos displayed to the screen. Now, similar to our last video, what we can do is rather than saying hello, we could do something like this. We could put in I here. So I is our counter. And if we go and run this here, we can see we count from 0 to 4. And just because our incrementer is set to 0, this is usually what we do because we want to start counting at 0 and work our way up to whatever our number is. So if we have maybe 10 elements or 10 names that we want to display, we might use a for loop to count up to the number 10. But this incrementer could be set to whatever, like it could be set to the number 3. The only thing to keep in mind is if this is set to 3, it's only going to print out our numbers in this case. It's only going to print out those numbers 3 and 4 because we're going to get to our number 5 much quicker. So if I go and run this, you'll see that we see the output 3 and 4. Now, we could increase this again if we change this. So this is currently 5, but if we put this to 15, we'd be able to count, or we'd get the numbers displayed out from 3 to 14, because again 15, the number that we say here isn't actually counted or isn't actually displayed, because when our incrementer checks to see if 15 is less than 15, it's not actually less, so it skips the for loop. So I'm just going to run this, and you can see we start off with our number 3 and we finish off with our number 14 being displayed.